Let's start by talking about paint consistency. Often new painters will make their watercolor paint too thick and sticky, just like this. So when you go to paint, it just doesn't flow off your brush. It's too dry and thick. Make sure as you're mixing up your paint that you're adding plenty of water. I think a good consistency is about the consistency of milk for most painting, so that it would drip off your brush if you shook the brush. So here, do you see how it's just flowing right off the brush? And it takes a little bit for it to run out. Hopefully you guys can see the difference there, and that's what it should feel like when you're putting your brush on the paper, not all dried out. All right, so I have some clean water that I'm going to use for this part, and I've mixed up this nice light green. I'm going to add a little bit of the vermilion hue to it. It's a darker green. And I'm using my number 12 brush again. Loading it up, and then just on the side, getting the excess off and making it to a nice point. Again, I'm going to hold my hand so that it's kind of touching the paper on the side, holding the brush so it's right up on the ferrule. And then I'm going to start by making a very small, thin spiral that then becomes bigger by just pushing the brush down. So think about what you did for the ribbons. That's what you're going to do here, where you start out thin and then go thick and thin again. But this time you're going to make it into a spiral. Make sure you have enough paint and that your brush is really loaded so that you can finish the spiral. These can overlap the other ribbons that you made. Start out really thin, make it bigger, and then see if you can make it thin again. You can change the color up as you go. I'd also like you to do this with your number 6 brush. So make a few with the number 12, so you can see how thick it can be. And have fun with it. Kind of play around, but stay on the left side of your paper. Just use about half your paper. So now I have my number 6. And again, I'm going to load it up. You can change the color, adding some of that darker blue to it. That's the Prussian blue. The small brush can be easier to manage with this. The bristles are a little shorter and there's not as many of them, so they don't flip around quite as much. Have your colors overlap. Experiment with sometimes having your brush pretty loaded heavily with paint. And again, keep all of this on the left-hand side so that you've got half of it for the stuff we're going to do later. Next, I'm going to mix up a different color. I'm using the Prussian blue, which is the darker blue, and my number 6 brush, loading it up, but then making sure that I have a nice tip at the end. It's nice and thin, holding it straight up and down. And what I'd like you guys to do is make about 20 circles. And the way I make them is I just start on one side, do half of it, and then bring the other side in. You can put these all over your design. Make as many as you want. 20 is kind of your minimum. And you can switch it up and get some different colors if you'd like. Just embellish your design and add to it. And that's it for this part of your brush stroke techniques.